Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Congressman Colin Allred, and I am so glad to be hosting this roundtable with second gentleman Douglas Emhoff. It's so exciting for us to have him with us virtually on how we should be investing in our families and our caregivers. Now, earlier this year, I took a month of leave to be with my family after the birth of our son, Cameron. And in 2019, I did the same thing when we had our first son, Jordan. I was actually the first member of Congress to take paternity leave. I want to make sure that the peace of mind and stability that paid leave can bring is available to every family. We've spent the past year in each other's living rooms through Zoom like this, and I think there's a greater understanding that we have now of the need for us to be flexible with one another, and that we'll all need some time with our family at some point. And that's why I am so proud to fight for a national paid leave policy alongside this White House. President Biden has proposed 12 weeks of paid leave in his investments in our care economy. And from the Senate budget framework, it looks like there will be funding for a paid leave program. And I'm ready to do all I can to make sure that we get this done in this Congress. We've made some progress already. Earlier this year, I was proud to vote in support of the American Rescue Plan, which included an improved and expanded child tax credit, which began going out to families on July 15th. As a dad of two young children, I know how difficult this pandemic has been for families with young kids, and that's why we did all we could to support them in the American Rescue Plan under President Biden's leadership. This is basically Social Security for families with kids, putting money in the pockets of families that really need it, and it's going to cut childhood poverty in half. That's an enormous thing. We increased the child tax credit in the American Rescue Plan from $2,000 to $3,600 for kids under the age of 6, and to $3,000 for kids ages 6 to 17. So thanks to the American Rescue Plan, this credit can now also be paid out monthly. So that's a really big deal. I know I was raised by a single mom who was a public school teacher, and I know what it's like to have to figure out each month how you're going to pay the bills. And this common sense change, I'm sure, is already making a huge impact. Recently, I sent out a survey on the child tax credit to over 300 North Texans responded to that survey and shared a little bit of the freedom that this extra money has provided them, whether that was to pay for their school supplies and new backpacks, or health insurance, or groceries, or even just peace of mind when bills came due. And so I'm so glad to be joined by our panelists today to discuss how we can build on the child tax credit and pass policies like paid family leave to invest in our families and caregivers who are so important for our entire economy and just for who we are as a people. But first, I want to start by introducing someone who I am so glad and proud to have joining us virtually, the second gentleman of the United States, Douglas Emhoff. Mr. Emhoff, I'm happy to give you the floor to kick us off.
Thank you so much, Congressman Allred. It's so great to see you, and thanks for everyone out there joining, and thank you all for inviting me to this important conversation this morning. And I'm so thankful for your public and strong leadership on these important issues, Congressman. It's really inspirational, and you know, like you, I'm a dad, and we were just talking about kids before we got on here. So on a personal note, and as a dad, I'm so inspired by you and the example you are setting by taking paternity leave after your children were born. So when I think back to when Cole and Ella were born way back in the 90s, I remember the pressure I felt as a new dad not to take leave. But like you, I was lucky enough to work for a place that offered that leave. But I felt the expectation was to just keep working as if nothing at home had changed. So what I know now is that the pressure that I felt then is actually still part of the problem all these years later. So it's why I'm so happy to see people like you leading by example and doing it so publicly. And you are reminding us all, Congressman, that expanding access to paid leave and encouraging families to use it is such an important piece of building a strong future for our country, for everyone. So many families out there have faced difficult times and unexpected challenges over this past challenging year. So since stepping into this role as second gentleman, I've been on the road a lot. In fact, I think we counted, I've been to 24 states, checking in with people and communities all over the country. And I think as hopefully you saw, I was in Texas a few weeks ago with the First Lady. These visits are great because they provide a window into the lives of families all across the country. I've met moms and dads who have been juggling family life and work, families struggling with a lack of childcare, trying to keep their kids in school with remote learning. People doing everything they can to make sure that everyone in their family stays healthy. So in so many ways, the pandemic has magnified the challenges that have been facing our families for a long time. And as we know, these challenges disproportionately impact women. In fact, the pandemic has pushed millions of women out of the workforce. And in a country where not enough families have access to leave, women end up taking on the bulk of the caregiving responsibilities for their families. Almost everyone in our country will experience a caregiving need at some point, whether to welcome a new child, or to care for a loved one, or to treat their own serious illness. But today, nearly 4 out of 5 private sector workers still, all these years later, do not have access to any paid leave. And because of this, too many women have had to sacrifice their jobs, their pay, or both to take care of their families. And that's wrong. This not only impacts women and their families, but it impacts the strength of our entire economy. As you may know, today, August 3rd, is Black Women's Equal Pay Day, which marks how far into the year Black women need to work to earn what their white male counterparts earned in 2020. Black women's wages, and indeed the wages of most women, are affected by the lack of work-family policies. It's got to change. We've got to do more to invest in our families. And that's why President Biden and Vice President Harris, alongside leaders like you, Congressman Allred and the others, are committed to making sure people aren't forced to choose between their jobs and their caregiving responsibilities. They believe our nation needs a comprehensive paid family and medical leave program that ensures that all workers can take the time when they need it. This isn't just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do as well, because when families succeed, we all succeed. So I'm really looking forward to diving into our conversation today. And with that, Representative Allred, I'm going to hand it back to you to get us started with this conversation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Emhoff. It's so great to have you with us, and I couldn't agree more with everything that you just said. We have a great set of folks joining us today, and we want to welcome you virtually back to Texas and to talk to them. We'll begin with Nelly Cuenca, who's a parent and the CEO and founder of MAPA Nonprofit, an organization that helps single mothers raising their sons, something I know a little bit about. So Nelly, I'll turn it over to you just to say hi.
Thank you so much, Congressman Allred. And you are definitely a part of the MAPA community. MAPA is an organization that focuses on moms who are raising boys without a father figure. And we're thankful to be on this platform so we can talk about how we can empower our families. Thank you all.
That's great. Thank you, Nelly. We're also joined by Rebecca McQuiston, who's a working mother of 3 from Richardson, which is in my district. Rebecca has 2 kids under 8, Doug, and 1 heading to college, which I was congratulating her on before we got on here. She recently wrote to my office about how the child tax credit is helping her family. Rebecca, if you want to say hi.
Hello, and thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And we also have Jarad Toussant, who is the Senior VP of Education and Workforce of the Dallas Regional Chamber, who I work very well with. And the Dallas Regional Chamber has been a leader in advocating for paid family leave. And I want to thank them for their leadership, and turn it over to you, Jarad, to say hi.
Thank you, Congressman Allred, and thank you, Second Gentleman Emhoff. We are excited to be a part of today's conversation. We are strongly in support of these efforts to ensure that we make the Dallas region the best place to live, work, and do business. So excited to participate today.
Thanks, Jarad. And finally, it looks like we have Jennifer Chandler, who is Market President at Bank of America, and who I've spoken with and spoken to my team about her company's paid family leave policies, which I know is a big thing that helps them attract and retain talent. So Jennifer, want to say hi as well.
Good morning, and thank you for including me. I'm happy to be here to represent Bank of America. And Congressman Allred, thank you for continuing to advocate for this work and sharing your own experience as well. And second gentleman, it's great to visit with you as well. Just honored to be included. Thank you.
Yeah, we're so thankful to have you. Thanks, Jennifer. And thank you to all of our folks who are joining us. We'll be asking each of you questions. But as the second gentleman said, no matter who you are or where you work, everyone is going to need support to care for their children or to provide for their families or for themselves at some point in their life. And whether we can help with that through affordable childcare, the help that is coming from the child tax credit or paid family leave, I am dedicated to working alongside Mr. Emhoff in this White House to advance these goals because it's good for our economy, it's good for our country. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So let's get to some of the questions. I'll start first with Nelly and then hand it over to the second gentleman. Nelly, as we just talked about, I was raised by a single mother and I know how tough it can be. And so I just want to start by thanking you for the incredible work that you're doing. My mom was a public school teacher, and as you know, we don't pay our teachers enough. And so I know what a difference a few $100 a month can make for a family, especially a single mother who's trying to raise a kid who eats way too much. And I want to ask you if you've seen the enhanced child tax credit making a difference for the families that you work with, and what other investments in children, whether it's universal pre-K or making childcare more affordable for every family, that you think would most benefit the families that you work with.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. One thing that we do want to say is we are so honored and thankful to have your leadership. Having this additional help for our families is a difference of not taking on a part-time job on top of their already full-time job responsibilities. And for our moms who are working full-time, many of them do have part-time jobs just to make ends meet, Congressman. And so as we speak to this pandemic, we had so many differences where women actually had to take a step back and let go of their employment, which is tied to their health insurance, which is tied to their life insurance. And unfortunately, they were left stranded. And so thank you to the second gentleman for speaking on the behalf that women do take on the responsibility of the children. So as we move forward, one of the things that I would love to see is having universal quality childcare. As we know, Congressman Colin, the developmental ages are so important, newborn to age 3. And some of what we have also seen is the fact that, again, quality time is so important, and giving the women back their time to spend with their children and actually invest in their families versus taking on an additional job just to have quality of care and living expenses paid. So I thank you for that. And yes, as we push forward, one of the things that we would like to see is, again, an investment in quality childcare. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. Mr. Emhoff, I'll turn it over to you.
Congressman Nelly, thank you for that. I appreciate you speaking out as well. Jarad, how are you? This one is for you.
Yes, sir.
I talked about business before. I come from the business world, the legal world. This is all new to me, being in public service. I love it, but I also spent a lot of time working in the business sector. So I saw the effect of folks not taking leave even when they were able to take it. And that's just not okay. I had that experience myself. I've seen other colleagues go through that. But talk about, with your background, how national paid leave policy would actually be good for business.
Absolutely. And we believe strongly in the importance of family-friendly policies in the workplace, particularly here in the Dallas region, and have seen a lot of positive momentum in that realm, including the use and utilization of paid family leave. In January of this year, we launched the Best Places for Working Parents Dallas, a new initiative to recognize the employers who are actually doing the hard work to provide these types of supports and services to their workforce. And in today's economic climate, particularly, we know that these rise to critical levels of importance for job seekers as they seek to re-enter the job market. And so we saw nearly 100 qualifying employers and entities in the Dallas region, nearly 400 across the state. But what we saw, Second Gentleman Emhoff, was really compelling in that many of our companies, particularly in the Dallas region, are going above and beyond. They're providing support for working parents beyond what is the baseline, such as referral networks for healthcare, childcare needs, employer resource groups, additional emergency leave. And so we think that this momentum is showing leadership from our employers, from our business community, who are hungry for ways, policies, and supports to increase the support that they provide to their workforce. And we thank you for the opportunity to highlight some of that and to continue much of that work.
Great. That's a great example for the rest of the country, Jarad. Appreciate that. Congressman, I'll kick it back to you.
Absolutely. And I think you can see, Emhoff, just why the Dallas Regional Chamber is such a great thing for our community here. And Becca, I want to turn to you. Is it okay if I call you Becca?
Yes, please.
I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story with me about how the child tax credit is helping your family. And just want to know, if you're able to and comfortable, if you could share with us how it's helped you and what it would mean for you if we're able to make these changes permanent, and so that you could maybe look forward to this past the next couple of years.
Oh, if that could be a permanent change, I would be very much behind that. Come from a very lower middle class family where, we have good jobs, we have nice houses, but we have no savings. And whenever anything comes up, it's a credit card, and having a few extra $100 a month to put towards that, or the school supplies, or the cell phone bill, or whatever it is. It's like so many families, we just are always checking that bank account balance and going, ooh, not quite enough. So having a consistent additional, even minor income is a huge deal. We think all the time, is it time for one of us to try to get a part-time work from home job just to bring in a little additional income? And we just cannot make the time in our schedules for that. So seeing this come through the pipeline throughout the year was very interesting to watch, and I'm so happy that it is delivered so far. And I really hope that we can make this change more permanent.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Becca. I know exactly what you're talking about. For folks who don't think a couple $100 a month is helpful to families, we didn't grow up the same way.
Very true.
Becca, thank you so much for joining us. I just really, really appreciate you. And with that, Mr. Emhoff, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Jennifer, how are you?
Great, thank you.
Thanks for joining. So your company has provided parents with paid leave, which is great. But as I said earlier, it's only 4 out of 5 don't have it. So why don't you talk about how your policy at your company, B of A, has worked, and how it's been good for business and productivity, and hopefully others will listen to you and do the same thing for their employees.
Absolutely. I'm happy to share. And Second Gentleman Emhoff, thank you again just for listening and for asking these questions. And I'm very pleased to say that Bank of America has done an incredible job, and we really work to lead the way. We love sharing these ideas with others. And I have to tell you personally, I've been here for about 20 years, and I've had 4 children since I've worked here. So it's a perfect example of really taking advantage of the benefits. We do offer 16 weeks paternity leave. We also know not every family looks the same, and so we work with many families. Sometimes that means adoption. It may look different for each family, but we're very mindful of that. And I will tell you, in offering that leave and the paternity leave for the fathers as well, it really makes that employee able to bond with their children, which is important. But I will tell you, as a company too, we retain some top talent, and we have a long tenure with many of our colleagues here at the firm, and I believe our benefits are a big part of that. We also have a very diverse workforce at every level of the organization. So we have women at the table, we have diversity at the table when these decisions are made. So we do believe it's the right investment into our teammates, and additional benefits help as well. It's not just the leave, but We're very pleased to offer mental health services, teledoc services, that preventative health as well. So we try to wrap around all of those resources for our teammates so that they have what they need. Lastly, I would say we continue to evolve, and the pandemic was a perfect example. Childcare looked a bit different over the last few months, and we were able to be flexible and be creative and work with families to not only leverage childcare facilities, but others and loved ones to help with childcare as well. So we continue to evolve. We are happy to share what we've learned and experienced, and I can tell you it makes a better company, a better community with the work that we're doing. Lastly, we've continued to raise our minimum wage with a commitment to $25 by 2025, which will help as well. So we're creating not just jobs here, but careers. So thank you for asking, and we're always happy to share additional information. It's also public in our human capital report. Thank you.
Wow, that's great. Hope others are listening and will follow that great example. That's fantastic. Rep, back to you.
Well, thank you, sir. And thank you, Jennifer. And I just want to thank everyone for attending today, and to those watching on Facebook. That for long before the pandemic hit, it's been clear that American families needed help. And this is such an important topic. And I know there's a lot of work ahead, but it's so encouraging to hear that we have broad agreement from families who are benefiting from this, to organizations that are helping families, to employers who all recognize that we need to do this to help American families, that it's going to help our economy, it's going to help everyone. And I'm committed to doing just that in Congress. And I really, really want to thank the second gentleman, Mr. Emhoff, for taking time out of his busy schedule. It's so important, I think, for men to shatter this myth that family leave is only a women's issue. It certainly is a women's issue, but it's not only a women's issue. Being a good parent does start in those early days, and we need men involved as well. And Mr. Emhoff, you've been such a leader, and I want to thank you so much for joining us. I want to give you the opportunity to close us out.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate that. And again, thank you for speaking so publicly on an issue that men don't speak about. And I've been speaking up on issues, a lot of which is, men, we need to step up and support the ones that we love, and not just think you're doing it, but actually show it and be public about it. And it's so important to do that. So men out there, please do that. And we do need to have these benefits, paid family leave and child care for everyone. But until we do, if you have those benefits, men, take them. Take them for the reasons that the representative talked about, and for the reason I wasn't able to do it. I wish I could. So please utilize those benefits you have. Let's make sure these benefits are available for everyone. And the last thing I'll say is, this is not political, folks. Notice how we haven't talked politics at all. This is an American issue. These issues affect every single one of us in this country. So we all need to get behind this and support this administration in getting this done. So thank you so much, everyone. And it was just great to talk to you all behind the scenes and on camera. I know this is hard. I'm kind of getting used to doing this in front of everyone. And so for you to do this in front of everyone like this, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I guess, Congressman, I'll send it back to you for the big close.
Sure. I'll just say thanks again, sir, for joining us. We know how busy you are. And great job, everyone. Like the second gentleman said, this is not easy. But if it makes a difference, if it helps one family, then it's certainly worth it. And we appreciate you, and we appreciate the leadership you've shown by talking about this. So with that, thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.